welcome to the deep dive. Our mission here is always to dig into some complex, sometimes really challenging source material. Research, notes, deep philosophies, and pull out the wisdom you need. Make it accessible. Today, we've got a powerful stack of sources focusing on something I think a lot of people feel, but maybe can't quite name. It's that unseen weight,
Yeah.
of generational history.
Yeah. We are really diving deep today into ancestral healing, which is all about transforming that inherited pain, the stuff passed down, and, finally closing out those cycles, the ones that have maybe haunted your family line for ages, decades, maybe even centuries.
In the starting point here, it feels immediately relatable. It asks this really profound question. Why do we sometimes carry feelings? Like this chronic mistrust, maybe, or constant guilt, or this deep fear of loss that doesn't make sense, or always sacrificing ourselves, feelings that seem just way out of proportion, or totally unexplained by what's actually happened in our lives, right? And
Yeah.
we react emotionally, and it just doesn't track with our current reality.
Well, exactly. And that feeling, that disconnect, that's the signal. It's like a spiritual nudge. When that feeling, that emotional pattern, clearly doesn't start with you. Well, that's where we bring in this idea of ancestral imprints. These are the energetic signatures left behind by generations before us. Things like unresolved survival responses, big waves of grief, maybe anger that got pushed down, or deep shame, stuff they basically had to pack away just to get through their lives, to survive.
Okay, so it's not like we're remembering their specific memories or having psychic flashes. It's more like an emotional echo,
Yeah.
a feeling frequency that got passed down.
Yeah, an echo is a good way to put it, or like an energetic habit. It's woven deep right into your being. These imprints, they don't usually live as conscious memories. They're more like these set emotional patterns, sometimes even like tension held in the body, in the psyche. They become the sort of background hum that quietly influences huge life choices, how you deal with money, who you trust, why maybe you accept less than you deserve, or why you feel so incredibly guilty when you finally try to rest.
Wow, that does sound like a heavy burden to carry without even knowing it.
Yeah.
But the mission here, laid out in the sources, it feels really hopeful, actually. We want to explore how you, listening right now, can learn to spot these patterns, these deep ones, and then, become the one who releases it.
Yeah.
For the whole lineage, actually turning that inherited pain, that residue, into wisdom, into a legacy. Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with how to even spot these things. Recognition. Wait, okay. So for someone listening now thinking, yeah, I think I feel that, something heavy that isn't mine, how do we go from just that vague feeling to really recognizing it clearly? What are the specific recurring emotional themes or behaviors we should be looking out for based on this material?
Right. You need to look for patterns that feel like they're always draining you, like constantly. Patterns that seem to trip you up no matter how hard you try consciously. These are often the specific things, the manifestation points, that earlier generations just couldn't resolve.
Okay, give us the main ones, the ones that source material really highlights.
The sources point to 4 really common ones. First, there's that chronic, sort of low-level emotional static. A pattern of feeling loss is inevitable, or deep mistrust of others, or that crippling guilt, or always feeling like you have to sacrifice yourself. It's not just being sad sometimes. It's like
Yeah.
your whole stance towards the world is braced, waiting for the other shoe to drop, or feeling like you constantly have to earn your place.
Yeah, I think we all know people like that, or maybe feel it ourselves sometimes, that constant vigilance. What's next?
Then look for a persistent, often confusing fear of abandonment. This is that anxiety that people will leave, or money will disappear, or safety is just temporary. Even when, logically, your adult life is stable, your relationships are solid, it's this deep terror that just doesn't match your reality now. And often it echoes generations who really did face abandonment, or forced migration, or sudden violent losses.
That makes sense. The body's reacting to an old threat, not what's happening right now.
Exactly. Then there's the big one, that profound guilt about resting, about taking any time for yourself. If slowing down feels fundamentally wrong, like a moral failure, or if you believe you haven't earned a break unless you're absolutely running on empty. That's often a clear echo of ancestors, maybe immigrants, people surviving wars or famine who literally couldn't stop. Their survival depended on constant work. Rest wasn't just a luxury, it was dangerous, a vulnerability they couldn't afford.
So that guilt isn't laziness. It's an old survival program still running. And the last one you mentioned, Compulsive overgiving.
Yes, compulsive overgiving. And it's usually tied right into having really weak boundaries. It's that feeling of constantly pouring from an empty cup because you're terrified of disappointing someone or failing them or being rejected. If your sense of worth is all tangled up in how useful you are to others, you're likely carrying that imprint of self-sacrifice, where the individual needs came second to the group's survival.
Just recognizing that. Understanding it's the pattern, not some personal flaw. That must be the first step to freedom, right?
It's the absolute foundation. It starts to untangle your identity from that inherited weight. You shift from thinking, I'm just an untrusting person, to realizing, I'm carrying the imprint of generations of betrayal, and now I see it. That change in perspective, that's the awareness. That begins the separation.
Okay, but recognizing the pattern.
Yeah.
Sometimes that takes a real shakeup, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A catalyst. The sources use this incredibly vivid, almost, well, intimidating image.
Yeah.
The arrival of the jaguar.
Yeah.
What is that metaphor about, and why does it sound so urgent, almost violent?
It is powerful, isn't it? And it's meant to be. It addresses how sometimes the awakening needs to be sharp, severe even. The source says it clearly. The jaguar appears because you're ready to stop repeating the cycle. And this appearance, this catalyst, it's usually not gentle. Often it feels like a crisis out of the blue. Losing a job, a relationship suddenly imploding, a big health scare. It feels like an attack.
An attack? Why frame it that way? That sounds so negative, almost like punishment. How does that fit with healing?
Well, think of it as a shock, a necessary jolt. It's designed to shatter that unconscious repetition. The attack isn't punishment. It's activation. See, the trauma the lineage carries is often dormant. It runs your life quietly from the background. The jaguar forces the issue. It shocks that huge, dormant, inner strength awake. It makes you stop compartmentalizing and finally face what previous generations, because of war, trauma, huge social pressure, what they simply had to bury to survive.
So we should try to reframe this crisis, this attack, not as things falling apart, but as a breakthrough. Like it's this urgent, maybe even fierce invitation. The soul finally saying, okay, yes, let's heal this. A quiet yet thunderous yes, as the source puts it.
Exactly that. It's the universe or your soul saying, okay, just getting by isn't enough anymore. It's time to transform. The soul's reached a kind of critical mass. It's ready to be better. And not because it was broken, no soul is broken, but because it's outgrown the sheer weight of that old pain. Your current life, like a container, just can't hold that much dense old grief anymore. The crisis forces the release valve open.
Okay, but let's pause here because this is important. Listeners might be thinking, how do I know if this terrible thing happening is a jaguar invitation or just a terrible thing?
Yeah.
If someone's genuinely in crisis, how does this metaphor avoid feeling like spiritual bypassing, like blaming them for their struggle?
That's such a crucial distinction. And the source material stresses discernment, a genuine crisis that needs immediate practical help, safety measures. That's different from the pattern of crisis. The jaguar tends to show up when the repeating, inherited pattern has become suffocating, when your unconscious is screaming for change. So if you notice you keep hitting the exact same wall, just maybe with different people or circumstances, the same abandonment fear playing out, the same kind of financial disaster, that's the jaguar. It's pushing you to look deeper than the surface problem this time, to address the root, the energetic habit itself. Not just patch up the symptom again, hashtag 1.3, the soul's a volunteer contract.
This whole perspective implies there's a real spiritual purpose behind these big challenges. Tell us more about this idea of the soul's volunteer contract. Why would my soul sign up for this heavy lifting?
Right. What's fascinating here is the idea that it's not random. It's not just bad cosmic luck. It's spiritual intention.
Yeah.
Your soul didn't just stumble into this healing work by accident. The sources say it volunteered to end the loop. Wow. So the current generation, you, the listener, has actually taken on this specific sacred job to bring light, bring consciousness to what's been hidden, what's been running the family subconscious, like some old dark program.
Okay, but if the generations before us couldn't resolve it, and they were strong, they survived incredible things, what makes the listener uniquely able to handle it now?
That's the heart of the contract. You, the listener, often have advantages your ancestors simply didn't. Things like relative stability, maybe a wider emotional vocabulary, physical safety, access to information like this. Your ancestors were often in pure, relentless survival mode. They might not have had the social structures or, frankly, the luxury to process huge traumas, famine, displacement, war. They had to compartmentalize, bury it deep to survive.
They didn't have the space or the safety to really grieve or express rage or even understand what was happening emotionally.
Exactly. So the crucial piece here is this powerful idea. What they could not process, you can. You likely have the stability and the self-awareness needed to be the alchemist in the family line. The pain cycle can stop with you because you have the capacity now. The capacity to shine a light on it, to witness it, feel it, and release it without risking total collapse, physically or socially, in the way they might have. You, the listener, hold the key to finally letting go of this dense, stuck energy.
Wow, realizing that we're the key, that really shifts things.
Yeah.
From just noticing these heavy feelings to actually doing something. And our source material lays out this really clear, practical path, a 4-pillar system for the healing journey. Let's start with pillar 1, awareness and recognition. We've touched on spotting the pattern, but how do we formally recognize it as ancestral in a way that really sticks, that creates change?
Awareness is absolutely foundational. It needs sustained, almost disciplined self-observation, like you're an energetic detective studying your own reactions. So we go back to those recurring themes, the abandonment fear, the guilt about rest, the overgiving what, but this time you start meticulously charting them, like really tracking when do they flare up, what triggers them, and notice how disproportionate the reaction feels to the actual trigger.
So I find myself completely panicking because someone took an hour to text back. I notice the panic, and then I consciously link it back to that potential lineage fear.
Precisely. You notice the feeling, then you apply the conscious reframe. That's the vital step. Recognizing these traits specifically as ancestral instead of just internalizing them again as, oh, there's something wrong with me. So instead of saying, I'm just a needy person because I assume the worst, you consciously state, maybe even write down, I recognize this imprint of mistrust and catastrophic thinking. It helped my ancestors survive uncertainty, but it doesn't serve my safety now.
That sounds like creating a bit of mental distance, stepping back from the intensity of the emotion without denying it exists.
Yes. It creates that necessary psychological space, energetic space too.
Yeah.
You detach your identity from the imprint. That detachment is the separation process starting. Because if you stay completely merged with the pain, I am abandonment, you can't really feel it. But if you see it as an energetic artifact you're carrying, well, then you regain your sovereignty. You have the power to actually address it.
Okay, that distance, that awareness, allows us to actually work with the emotion, which leads right into pillar 2, expression and release. The sources emphasize that healing this kind of deep generational stuff requires the energy to physically leave the body. How do they suggest we actually do that, this vital release?
We have to get that unresolved grief, that trauma energy, those survival responses. They're potent energies. They really are. They're basically stored fight, flight, or freeze responses locked in the system. And if they stay locked inside you, they tend to solidify. They can manifest as physical issues or chronic anxiety, right? We simply cannot heal what we keep trapped inside. So expression is crucial. We have to find ways to safely channel that intense emotion.
Let yourself grieve or rage safely, the source says. Okay, what does safe rage actually look like? I can imagine someone listening worrying about, actually breaking things or pushing people away.
Safety is key here. Absolutely paramount. Safe rage, for example, isn't directed at another living person. That's crucial. It's directed at the pattern, at the injustice of the historical situation, at the energy itself. This could look like primal-sounding yelling into a pillow, or physical exertion like punching that pillow or stomping your feet, or maybe writing a furious, completely uncensored letter and then safely burning it afterwards. The goal is moving the energy, getting it out, not causing harm or destruction now.
Okay. And what about the specific physical pathways? How does the energy actually exit the body, according to the sources?
Tears and words. Those are identified as the primary physical pathways for that dense, stored energy to actually leave. Tears, especially emotional tears, are chemically different from, say, tears from cutting an onion. They literally carry stress hormones out of your system. And words, spoken aloud, even just whispering, are vibrations, sonic vibrations that can help break up those tight, energetic knots in the body. So this act of grieving and speaking the truth of the pain, it addresses those unresolved survival responses still held in the physical body, in the psyche. It's like the body finally gets to complete the fight or flight cycle that the ancestor was forced to interrupt and suppress.
So crying isn't weakness or just sadness. It's like a physiological detox program for the whole lineage.
It is the ultimate energetic detox,
Yeah.
yes. When you allow yourself to feel and express that deep, maybe seemingly bottomless ancestral grief, you might literally be weeping for generations who couldn't afford to shed a single tear because they had to be stoic just to survive the next hour, the next day. You are completing their interrupted cycle for them.
Okay, releasing all that intense emotional energy. It feels like it needs to be followed by something conscious, something intentional to mark the shift. Which brings us smoothly to pillar 3, ritual and declaration. This feels like where we step into the more mystical side of things. How does using ritual help cement this energetic boundary shift, make the release feel permanent?
Ritual is so important here because often this pain was absorbed unconsciously, in silence, maybe in darkness. So the release needs to be declared consciously, out loud, in light, with clear intention. And the source material gives us a really specific, beautiful framework for a ritual. It's designed to honor the past, acknowledge what was carried, while clearly defining a new future path.
Walk us through the steps, this boundary-setting ritual. What does it involve?
Okay. It starts with creating a clean, maybe sacred feeling space and lighting a candle. The candle acts as a literal light, a beacon for the lineage. It signifies you're addressing this historical energy, not just a fleeting personal mood. Then the intention is acknowledgement. You say their names aloud, the names of those who came before, if you know them. Or if you don't know names, you can speak to the ancestors of wisdom and love in your line.
Why is naming them or acknowledging them directly so important?
Acknowledgement brings peace. It offers rest. By saying their names or acknowledging their presence, you're bringing them into conscious awareness, not to burden you further, but so they can witness your active liberation. It's like saying, I see the immense weight you carried. I honor your survival.
Yeah.
That reverence, that seeing, is often what allows their energy to finally settle, find peace, and then after that acknowledgement, you make the powerful declaration.
The declaration of spiritual sovereignty, the line in the sand.
Exactly. It's the renegotiation of the energetic contract you've been unconsciously living out. You state aloud, firmly, I release what no longer serves this family line. I carry forward only love and wisdom. This declaration acts as that deliberate, formalized boundary. It's you, as a sovereign being, saying, the generational pattern of suffering stops here, with me. You are consciously choosing your inheritance now.
A listener might wonder, is this a one-and-done thing? Do you do this ritual once and it's severed? Or is it ongoing?
That's a good question. The material suggests that while that first intentional declaration is huge, it's monumental. The ritual can become a touchstone. It's something you can return to whenever that old pattern feels like it's creeping back in forcefully. Think of it like recalibrating your energetic compass, regularly affirming the new direction you've chosen. So it's less about constantly fighting the past and more about consistently reinforcing the new reality you are building. That consistency is what makes it real.
Okay, after all that, the deep awareness work, the emotional release, maybe tears, maybe rage, the powerful ritual and declaration, the nervous system must be, well, pretty stirred up. Which brings us to the crucial pillar 4, embodiment and grounding. Why is this physiological piece so vital? Why can't we just stop at the declaration?
Oh, we cannot skip this part. Grounding is essential. We absolutely cannot overstress this. This healing isn't just happening in your head or your spirit. It's a full-body physiological reset. That expression phase, the tears, the yelling, the declarations, it stirs up deep, energetic stuff. Knots get loosened. If you don't consciously help your body integrate this new, lighter energy and settle back down, you risk feeling completely overwhelmed, maybe dissociated, floaty, or just flooded by those ancestral emotions you just intentionally stirred.
So grounding is like the anchor. It stops the newly freed energy from just making us feel lost or unstable.
Absolutely, it's the anchor. The goal is to settle your nervous system firmly back into the present moment and to signal to your body on a biological level, okay, that was intense, but I am safe now. The source material gives some really specific physical techniques for this embodiment piece.
What are those main grounding techniques they recommend?
Okay, number 1 is intentional grounding using your breath. Deep, conscious breathing, especially focusing on a long, slow exhalation. That really helps slow the heart rate, calm the vagus nerve. It shifts you into that rest and digest state. Second, connection with nature. Sounds simple, but it's powerful. Physically touching the earth, standing barefoot on grass if you can, putting your hands on a tree trunk. These simple acts remind your body it's part of this larger, stable system, Earth.
That makes so much sense, just feeling solid ground. What about movement?
Yes, gentle movement is key. Engaging in slow, non-strenuous movement. Think really gentle yoga, slow stretching, or just mindful walking, really feeling your feet connect with the ground. This helps integrate the energy that got released during the expression phase. It helps it settle into your tissues. But the movement needs to be gentle. We don't want to reactivate a fight response. The purpose is smooth integration, rooting this new energetic state firmly in the present reality of your physical body. This grounding makes sure the healing lands here, in your actual life, not just as an abstract idea.
Okay, so practicing these 4 pillars, the awareness, expression, ritual, embodiment consistently. This leads to something really profound. The sources say it's more than just personal growth. They talk about a literal vibrational shift happening, one that affects the entire timeline of the lineage. This is where it gets really mind-bending and fascinating.
It really is the peak of this work. It's incredible. The core idea is that when you successfully process and release that dense, stuck energy, the vibration of the whole lineage actually changes across the entire timeline, both forwards and backwards in time. And the sources are clear. This isn't just a nice metaphor. They present it as an energetic reality. Hashtag, tag, tag 3.1, the vibrational shift forward and backward.
Okay, I need you to unpack that a bit more, because it's a huge claim, right? Affecting the past. How does healing today actually change what already happened?
Think of your family lineage like a river, a continuous flow of consciousness, energy, emotion flowing through time. When your ancestors went through massive trauma, war, famine, persecution, whatever it was that trauma created, like a huge energetic blockage in the river, a whirlpool, an eddy. And this blockage wasn't just felt by them in their time, its energy became part of the current, affecting the flow for everyone downstream, for you.
So the past isn't really past. Its energy signature is still active in the present.
Precisely. It's still resonating. So when you, here in the present, consciously engage with that energy, you process the grief, you release the rage, you understand the pattern. You're not changing the facts of what happened. History is history. But you are changing the energetic charge connected to that event, the resonance of it within the lineage field. By transforming that inherited pain into wisdom and compassion now, you effectively dissolve the blockage in the river.
And what happens when that blockage dissolves? What are the results?
Looking forward in time, it means your descendants inherit a clearer flow. They might inherit peace, emotional resilience, maybe even greater ease around things like money or trust, instead of inheriting those dense patterns of fear, scarcity, or suspicion. And looking backward in time, this is the really beautiful part. The ancestors themselves find a measure of rest, resolution. That heavy pressurized energy they carried, the burden they couldn't put down in their lifetime, it finally settles because someone in the line you successfully acknowledged it, processed it, and transformed it. Their historical trauma doesn't need to keep echoing and repeating itself through you anymore.
Wow. That really does elevate this healing work beyond just feeling better ourselves.
Yeah.
It's multi-generational liberation.
It truly is. It's a sacred act, a profound responsibility, but also a gift. You are literally liberating the past from its energetic prison, and you are blessing the future with a cleaner slate. Hashtag, tag, tag 3.2, the alchemist and the new identity.
So the person doing this work,
Yeah.
the listener, they're no longer just surviving their history, their inheritance.
Yeah.
What's the new identity that emerges? Who do they become?
They make this incredible shift from being the wounded inheritor, feeling like a passive recipient, maybe even a victim of family history, to becoming the active healer and, as the sources beautifully put it, the alchemist of the lineage. You learn to take that raw material, the painful history, the very stuff of the generational wound, and you actively transmute it. You turn that base metal of inherited grief and fear into the gold of potent, usable wisdom for your own life now.
That wisdom. It sounds like accessing a deeper knowing, something that wasn't available when caught in the pattern.
It is. The sources talk about the stirring of ancient knowing, which is this profound realization that your true identity, it's not actually defined by those traumatic ancestral events. And it's not even solely defined by your own personal wounds or traumas. The source material guides us. Your identity is defined by what you do with that inheritance now. That completely shifts the power dynamic. Away from the past dictating everything and rooting your power firmly in your present conscious choices, you start to realize that the incredible resilience, the strength, the sheer power it took for your ancestors just to survive, that's now your inherent power. But you get to use it to thrive. Hashtag tag Shag 3.3, the spells of release.
Okay, let's circle back to those declarations we talked about in the ritual pillar. The source material really emphasizes their power, even calling them active spells of release.
Yeah.
Now, I know that word spells can be a bit charged for some people. It might sound a bit out there. Why do you think the source uses that specific term? And how do these spoken statements actually, reroute the energy of the lineage?
Yeah, it's a potent word, isn't it? And it's used intentionally here, I believe, not in the sense of like fairy tale magic or casting hexes, but in its older original sense. A spell is a specific, intentional, powerful use of spoken word of vibration to create change, to shape energy. So when you speak these declarations aloud with focus and feeling, you are essentially creating a new energetic program for your own body-mind system and for your connection to the lineage field. You're actively overwriting that old default program of fear or guilt or self-sacrifice that's been running.
So it's like Linguistic programming for reality. Using intention through words. Let's break down those 4 key statements the material provides again. The first one is about readiness.
Yes. The first is that declaration of readiness, of alignment. My soul is ready to be better. This one's crucial. It's like giving the energetic green light from your deepest self. Because honestly, until the soul is truly ready and willing to let go of the pattern, even if it's painful, the healing work often doesn't fully stick. This sets the highest intention.
Okay. Then the second one gets into the active work, the severing.
Right. I release the patterns that kept me bound. This is the active part of the spell. You are consciously, intentionally cutting those energetic cords, those ties that have kept you repeating those cycles. Mistrust, guilt, fear, scarcity, whatever it is for you. You can even visualize those cords dissolving or falling away as you speak the words.
Then the third one seems important for integration. Making peace with the past, not just rejecting it.
Exactly. I forgive the past and bless it for what it taught me. This is about finding the wisdom. Forgiveness here isn't about condoning harmful actions or letting anyone off the hook. It's about releasing the energetic charge that binds you to the painful event. You're acknowledging that even the hardship, the historical pain, it likely taught your lineage something important. Resilience, maybe caution, deep empathy. And you choose to carry forward the lesson, the strength, not the wound itself.
And finally, the fourth statement. This feels like setting the new default, the new energetic blueprint.
Yes. I choose clarity over chaos. Peace over fear, love over repetition. This is your energetic firewall, your new operating system. It becomes a moment-by-moment commitment, a mantra almost. When that old wave of ancestral chaos or fear tries to wash over you, and it might, occasionally you state this declaration. You consciously invoke the new vibration you've chosen, peace, love, clarity. And the sources assure us, every single time these are stated with real intention and feeling, the vibration shifts. Just a little, maybe, but shifts. Those old energetic cords loosen more, the old grief gets another chance to exhale, and that new clean light finds more space to take root right where the pain used to live. Hashtag tag 3.4, stepping into a gentler season.
Okay, so after all this work, the deep digging, the release, the rituals, the declarations, the grounding, what does life feel like? What is this gentler season the sources talk about? What's the day-to-day reality?
It's important to be realistic here. And the source material acknowledges this too. Healing isn't necessarily a one-time fix where everything is suddenly perfect forever. It still has its tides, as they put it. There will likely still be waves of remembrance, moments where an old ache surfaces. Maybe an anniversary triggers a flicker of that inherited sadness. But, and this is the profound difference, those moments become echoes. They're not the main current anymore. Beneath the surface ripples, there's now this steady, strong undercurrent of renewal, of fundamental safety and peace that wasn't there before.
So the intensity drains away. It's replaced by a kind of quiet stability, even if old memories pop up sometime.
Precisely. You move out of that constant, exhausting survival mode, always bracing for the next bad thing. You start shifting into a thriving mode, where you can actually receive goodness, enjoy peace, allow yourself rest without that crushing guilt. You're making that huge transition from being the bearer of a wounded lineage to becoming a living legacy. You consciously choose to carry forward the ancestors' incredible power, their resilience, their wisdom, but not their unresolved pain.
That conscious choice, living a life with more self-love, more presence, that sounds like the greatest possible way to honor everyone who came before.
It absolutely is, the ultimate honoring. The source material actually reminds us that every breath you manage to take in self-love, every moment of rest you truly allow yourself without guilt, it's described as being like a prayer washing back through time for all those who came before you. You are finally embodying the peace, the ease that maybe they fought and sacrificed for you to one day have. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow. What a truly profound journey through this source material today. We've covered so much. Recognizing that unseen baggage, those ancestral imprints. Learning to embrace the shock of the jaguar, not as punishment, but as that catalyst for deep change. And then walking through those 4 pillars of transformation. Awareness, expression, ritual, and crucially, embodiment.
And the essential message, the takeaway, is that you are not just passively receiving ancestral pain. Not at all. You are a vital turning point in your family's story, a point of inflection. The sources suggest you actually volunteered for the sacred work, that you were born prepared for it, even if it doesn't always feel that way.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? It means that the work you do to heal yourself, it's never just for you. It's simultaneously an act of liberating generations. Your clarity today can actually bring them peace way back then.
And that final image, the validation from the sources, it's just pure love and gratitude, isn't it, from those who came before. When you finally break the pattern, release the burden, they find their rest too. They are with you, they're smiling through the veil, and they're whispering that ultimate encouragement, that permission. Go, live. You are the one. You set us free.
Thank you so much for going on this deep dive with us today. I really encourage you to take a quiet moment sometime soon. Reflect on any inherited patterns you might have recognized listening to this, and consciously choose to carry forward only the love, only the wisdom. Maybe ask yourself, what burden am I finally truly ready to put down? We'll talk to you next time on The Deep Dive.